Yo, I'm Brendan. Today we need to talk about Acorns Later. It's the whole specified retirement section of the Acorns app and Acorns service, and I've yet to do a dedicated video about this. So let's dive in and see what the features are, how the portfolio is built for you, and if it's worth using if you want to save for retirement. Right off the bat, one of my favorite things about the Acorns Later service as part of what Acorns is offering is that it's included with all your subscriptions. So whether you're at the very base level or if you're at the full $9 per month, like give me everything from Acorns level, you get this. You get this as an option. Because if you're not familiar, the initial investing account that you get with Acorns is just a taxable brokerage account. And so it's the most flexible, it's the most advantageous for you if you're not sure if you want to be saving for retirement or not. But I just love that they also give you access to Acorns Later, because I feel like they could put that behind a paywall and say, oh, you've got to be at the mid-level account and try and charge us more money for it. But they give us this option so that you can have invested money for who knows what purpose, maybe a shorter term, maybe just keeping your options open in the basic taxable brokerage account. Then you can also have Acorns Later, which is dedicated for retirement. So I think the first logical question here is, what makes it for retirement? Like, why is this any different than a normal Acorns account? Because they're saying right here in the title for retirement, but why? Well, the main difference is that you're going to decide that this money is for your retirement for later. And as a result of that, you could get potential tax benefits by investing in this different kind of investing account because you're locking the money away for retirement. It's not locked up for forever. It doesn't mean you can't touch it. It just means there's some hoops to jump through if you want to get that money out before you reach traditional retirement age. And as a benefit of that, you get the tax benefits. And this is the full list of benefits on the actual Acorns website as far as what Acorns Later gets you. And most of these are pretty standard things, but one of them stands out to me because it's different than what I thought. So first of all, you get to do all of your retirement investing through the Acorns app. That's what I would come to expect. I want to go to one place and see the banking features, the investing features, retirement, anything if you're enrolled in stuff for your kids, all in one place, make it easy. Of course, automatic recurring contributions are an awesome option, so that's in there. Our Acorns Later accounts are protected by SIPC insurance, which of course doesn't mean that it's not going to go down in value because it could fluctuate market value. But what it's saying is that if Acorns goes out of business for some crazy reason, then your funds are SIPC insured up to $500,000. So you want to know more about that, you can click that link in there. The potential tax benefits that I hinted at just from using an IRA account are really cool. So they talk about that. And then here's the thing that I didn't understand before. This is how your money is actually invested whenever we go into an Acorns Later account. And I'll show you in a minute what mine would look like if I was using Acorns Later. I thought for some reason that the stuff that you chose to invest in through the taxable brokerage account with Acorns was just the same stuff that you get in the Later account. Someone actually asked me this in a comment recently, and I was like, I'm not sure, but that's how I think it works because I just didn't dig into this in detail before. And so whenever I learned this, I realized we've got to talk about this in more detail because it's very, very different than the Acorns Invest account. What they're doing here with Acorns Later is a special recommendation based on your current situation and your long-term goals, including your age. And so that's totally different than the Acorns Invest options, because with Invest, they say, hey, how much money do you have? How risky are you? How much do you want this to grow? Are you okay with it fluctuating in value? Yes or no? And then you get your desired portfolio basically spit out at the end. Okay, great. And then you just invest like that. And it doesn't change over time unless you change your preferences and your risk profile and that kind of thing. So it's sort of a more fixed thing. The difference here with these are that they're age-based portfolios. And so what it says is your Acorns Later portfolio is automatically selected based on your age, your timeline to retirement, and your preferences that you set up before, so that it automatically adjusts over time as you age. And what that really means for us in a more basic term, if you're not familiar with that concept in general, it's a little bit like a target date fund. It's sort of mirroring what people typically do over time whenever we invest anyway, which is that we want to turn down our risk over time as we get older. Because let's say you're 19 and you're just getting started out, you fire up Acorns Later, you get an IRA started and you start contributing money. I would be willing to bet that the average person is going to be more accepting of risk because you just have such a long time horizon. You probably have 3, 4, 5 decades before you're going to retire. And so you have a long time to ride out any kind of market turbulence, if you will. And so my guess would be that Acorns would suggest something a little bit more risky for you because you're young and you have all that time to ride it out. Where let's say you're 55 and you're just setting this up today because you saw this video, sounds like a good deal. You've been meaning to set up an IRA. You've already got an Acorns account. Boom, let's do it. And so I would guess that if you're at that age and stage in life where you're 55, you're knocking on the door of retirement sometime in the next 10 years, 15 years, probably max, that the amount of risk that you're actually willing to accept by then is less than somebody who's 19 because you don't have as much time to ride out any kind of market turbulence. You probably want to lock down the money that you've got. And so what Acorns is offering us here is basically that customization and that kind of thought process done for you in the background as you just shovel money in. So you're not having to think through that yourself and say, oh, well, now I'm 36 and I started when I was 26. And so maybe I should invest a little bit differently because I'm closer to retirement, or how many stocks versus bonds should I have? And what kind of funds should I invest in? Acorns is famous for taking that kind of decision out of your hands. You don't have to worry about it. What you have to worry about is putting in as much money as you possibly can up to the limit, because there's a contribution limit for these things, and then faithfully just leaving the money in there for it to grow. So this is a really great option for you if you don't want to have to go through that kind of decision-making process and go, I've got to find what I'm investing in. I've got to maybe change it over time as I age and maybe turn down the risk if that's what I want to do. You don't have to do that with Acorns. Now let's look at what it looks like within the actual Acorns app so you can see firsthand what it would look like if you were starting this, or if you're following along, that's cool too. I just want to show you the typical way that we interact with Acorns so you can see it for yourself. And then after this, we'll dive into the actual account types and I'll talk about the differences between the three kinds of IRAs that Acorns offers. So whenever we first open the screen here, we can see all of our different products from Acorns. So I'm paying for the full fat subscription. I want all the things. I've got my Invest account, which is the taxable brokerage account. Then Later is the one we're talking about today. And then we've got the banking features down here, along with Early, which is the kids investing account. So let's check into Later, and you can see mine's already partially set up because I made some choices here as far as what I would invest in and how I would want to set things up if I was actually using this service. And so what I'm going to do to show you a little bit more detail is to scroll down and look at my portfolio and then expand this out. And so you can see that this is already tailored to me in my situation in my life. It says age-based right here, and then this circle is representing how much of the portfolio is made up of each different ETF. So like this big giant swath here, 47% of all the money that I would invest in Acorns Later is in large company stocks. Then the next biggest chunk is international, and you can go through and see these different size companies and different ETFs and things in here. So it's just showing you that breakdown in this kind of visual format. In case you were curious as to what it had picked, that's what it's showing you there. And then if I wanted to click edit and change the kind of things I'm investing in here, you can see that my risk is already locked because it knows who I am, what my age is, what my income is, all this kind of stuff based on the information I've already given it in the past. And so it knows the level of risk that I'm basically comfortable with and what I want. And it says right here, and it validates my assumption there, the longer you have until retirement, the more aggressive your portfolio will be. That's a very standard kind of investing methodology and direction for us because it makes the most sense. And it's typically also what most people are the most comfortable with over time. And then what I can still pick down here at the bottom is my portfolio type. So I can pick ESG portfolios or core portfolios. And if you want to know more about ESG, you can click in there and kind of dive into it more. It's these companies that care and are rated specifically about environmental, social, and governance topics. I've made videos about this in the past. And so you can basically opt into that or not based on whatever you want. And then if I was investing in this, you'd be able to see the total portfolio value here, and then also just the percentage breakdown of each individual ETF and what I'm investing in. So I would have 5 different stock ETFs here and 5 different bond ETFs. And then right here at the very, very bottom, then you've got the breakdown of the percentage of that. So 20% of the money that I'd be putting in there would be invested in bonds, and 80% would still be invested in stocks. And so this is still, just to give you some perspective, like in the scheme of things, this is still pretty aggressive. It's not the most aggressive because the most would be like 100% stocks. So if you're 21 and you're doing this, I would think it'd be like 100% stocks probably. But if you're doing this and you're that 55-year-old person, this could even be switched. It might even be 80% bonds and 20% stocks or something closer to that, just because that's a little bit less likely to fluctuate in value and make you sweat and not sleep well at night. And that would also give us a breakdown on our earnings here. If I had money invested and if it was actively doing stuff, it would give us our year-to-date return in a term of a percentage and our year-to-date earnings in terms of an actual dollar figure. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we've got a couple more things that we can look at. And I just want to explain this to you so it kind of makes sense as far as what you're looking at here. So based on what I've filled out in the past, it's recommended me a Roth IRA. And right now in 2024, the maximum amount that you can put in a Roth IRA from your own paycheck is $7,000. Those are called contributions. And so this is a really cool little line graph to tell you how much of your max yearly limit have you already contributed? Because if you're aggressive enough and you can max this out, you're getting the full benefit of having this kind of account. You're getting the most in terms of tax savings potentially. You're saving the most as early as you possibly can, which should set you up for the most money in retirement. And so it's a fun little game. I know for a lot of people, investing $7,000 in a year is kind of a lot of money. What's 7,000 divided by 12? $583 a month is not easy for most of us to do. And so I realize that could be kind of a reach or a goal for us to hit, but it's a cool thing to work up to if you can, because whenever you max this out, then you're like, yes. I've maxed out my individual retirement account for the year, which is really cool. And then if you're able to do that, there's a chance you'd also have more money that you could put into another account then. So you could put it into your taxable brokerage account at that point. Maybe you've got a 401k at work you can use. It's just a fun thing to be able to monitor this throughout the year and say, yes, I'm getting closer and closer to maxing this out. And then all the way at the bottom, if you want a little bit more information and I'm not doing a good enough job, then you can also watch these little videos from Acorns and talk about why would you invest in an IRA? What happens if you need to withdraw money? What's the difference between a traditional 401k and a Roth 401k? Like just some basic information about investing and how stuff works. And I'm not totally sure if that's available to everybody or if I'm getting that because I'm paying for the $9 per month tier, but it's a cool option to have regardless. So now if you're curious to know what the difference is between the three kinds of IRAs that Acorns offers, and I don't remember whenever I first set this up if I chose the one that I wanted or if they suggested one to me. But in any case, I'll do just a quick 1-minute explanation for each one so you're familiar with it and you can move on with your life. The first one is a Roth IRA. That's the one that I had picked in here, and it's a really popular option. So the cool thing about a Roth IRA is whenever you send the money in, that money has already been taxed. It's called after tax dollars. I kind of hate that term. It's always been confusing to me. I don't like using that term. What you need to know about it is because it's already been taxed this year, it's just like any of your other take-home pay. It's like your paycheck at work whenever you're a W-2 employee and they've already taken your tax out. The rest of that money is yours to spend on burritos and race cars and rent and whatever else. So because that tax is one and done, now you put it into a Roth IRA and it grows tax-free for the rest of all time. So as that money is appreciating and it's going up in value because you've got it invested in the stock market, that growth that makes that account value go up doesn't get taxed. The dividends that get kicked off, that money doesn't get taxed. Then when the time comes for you to retire and you're actually taking the money out of the account because you said, hey, I'm done working. Now I'm just going to chill and kick back and do whatever your retirement hobbies are going to be, crocheting or race cars or whatever that is, then that money is also totally tax-free. And so this is a really cool tool for you if you don't want to have to worry about the taxes in the future. You can say, hey man, tax me today. I'll be done with it. I never have to worry about being taxed again. I feel like for the sake of simplicity, whenever you're actually retired and not having to do tax planning, this would be so fantastic. I would love to not have to be like, well, I'm going to withdraw this much and this money is taxed and that money is not and blah, blah, blah. Like if you just had a bunch of money in a Roth IRA, it would be so simple because you'd go, all the money's mine. None of this money goes to the government. It's just all for me. And it would make things so simple. The other cool thing about a Roth is because that money has already been taxed, you can actually withdraw the contribution that you've put into it if you need to. Now, typically you can't access money in a retirement account, whether it's a 401k or an IRA or whatever, without there being implications in terms of potentially being taxed or potentially having like an early withdrawal penalty. I wouldn't plan on doing that personally because it's obviously better to let it grow. But the fact that it gives you this flexibility, I think should enable a lot more people to utilize a retirement plan and not have to worry about like, what happens if I have to take the money out? Then I'm all afraid of penalties and taxes and stuff. You don't have to do that with a Roth IRA. There are some specific rules around that. So if you are planning on doing that or you're going to do that, you should look at the IRS website and know exactly what the intricacies are, because it's not like you invest it today and you take it back out tomorrow. It's not that fluid, but in general, you still have the option, which is really cool. The biggest limiting factor for a Roth IRA is the income limits. If you're making a lot of money, you just can't use a Roth IRA. It's not an option for you. In that case, you'd have to be using a traditional IRA or some other kind of savings vehicle. And those income limits change every year. They typically go up a little bit over time. And so if you're a high earner, you're making six figures, then I would go ahead and check out those income limits because that could be a limiting factor for you. Or you know what? I'll just put them right here so you can see them. There we go. You know who you are if you make that kind of money. Good for you. Now let's talk about a traditional IRA. So it's still an individual retirement account. It's still in your name, managed by you, owned by you, just like a Roth. The main difference is just when you pay taxes on the money. So with a Roth, we paid taxes on them the year that we made the money, just like you do with your normal paycheck income for most of us. With a traditional IRA, that money sort of gets put in a separate little bucket. It's like the government goes, oh, hey, you didn't make that money this year. We're just going to pretend like that money doesn't exist for now, and we're actually going to tax you on less money than you made this year. So let's say you made $100,000 and you put 7 of it into a traditional IRA, that 7 just doesn't get taxed this year. So overall, the year that you're contributing to a traditional IRA, your tax bill goes down. So if you're trying to save money on taxes now, this year, you think that that's a beneficial thing for you, then a traditional IRA is probably the way to go. But the tricky thing with either of these is there's not like a perfectly right answer, because the trade-off with a traditional IRA is that you'll end up paying taxes on the money whenever you actually take the money out to pay yourself in retirement. So, hey, you're 65 now, you've got $1 million in your traditional IRA. It's really, really great. Whenever you take money out to pay yourself, then you pay taxes. So depending on who you are, what your outlook is on taxes, what your outlook is on what your income will be in retirement, that could be a really good strategy for you. But it's not like a one size fits all, everybody should do this one kind of account situation. It's more based on you and what you're comfortable with and what you think is right for you. The cool thing with either of those is you're getting a tax benefit. You're getting a tax benefit in the future with a Roth IRA, or you're getting a tax benefit today with a traditional IRA. Either way, you're getting a special little boost and a benefit over using a standard investing account. That's just called a taxable brokerage account. It's a win-win. It's just different flavors of winning. And that's interesting to me that Acorns even offers an SEP IRA, because I wouldn't have expected that from them. It seems like it's just such like an individual focused service that the fact that it offers this kind of IRA is interesting to me. And so SEP stands for Simplified Employee Pension IRA. And so if you're self-employed or you're a business owner, then the cool thing about an SEP IRA is that you can contribute more money than you can with a traditional or a Roth IRA. So how much more can you contribute? A lot more. The IRS.gov website says that in 2024, you can contribute the lesser of either 25% of your employee's compensation or $69,000. So the ceiling on this, as far as the actual amount you can contribute, is 10 times higher than a regular IRA, like almost 10 times higher. It's incredible how much more you can contribute. And so this is a really cool option for you if, let's say, you're self-employed and you don't have a 401k anymore, like me. Now, I don't have an extra $69,000 laying around that I don't have to spend to just live my life, so I'm not maxing that out. But if you're in the situation where, hey, my expenses are covered and I've got a significant amount of cash that I'm just saving for myself anyway, the fact that you can shovel that into an SEP IRA is really, really cool. If you're self-employed, then you're willing to jump through some hoops and read some fine print anyway. But one thing that you need to know is that if you contribute to the SEP IRA for yourself, you have to make a proportional contribution for your eligible employees too. So if like you're a small business owner and you want to max this thing out for yourself because you had a really great year, just be aware of those rules that you've got contributions that need to happen with eligible employees too. So check out the IRS website and dig into the fine print there in case you want to do that. I think the really no-brainer cool application of this would be, let's say you're a one-man show. You're the small business owner, you're the person that runs it and owns it, and you're the only employee. Well, that simplifies things a lot for you. So if you're a profitable sole proprietor kind of person, then this could be a huge unlock for you, because maybe you didn't know that you could have an IRA that has such a massive contribution limit. Really awesome. And the tax savings on an SEP IRA are a little different than the others. You get tax deferred growth. And so it's not the same where you get an annual tax deduction for the contributions you put in there. It's not going to lower your taxes in that way. But the tax deferred growth is still a tax benefit over and above something that you would get potentially in something like a taxable brokerage account. So as is typical for me, we have officially dived into the very nerdy weeds of this kind of thing. But I just wanted to give you that kind of overview of what the three kind of account types are. There's one more feature here that I wanted to lay out for you because I think it's a really cool option, especially if, let's say, you don't have a 401k at work, or if you want this to be like really hands-off and easy for you. This is not a specific feature just for Acorns Later. It's an Acorns feature in general, but it is a really nice way to stay organized, and it's called Smart Deposit. Basically, what this does, if you're not familiar already, is a piece of your paycheck can be invested into your different Acorns accounts based on the amount that you turn up or down. And so you can start with as little as 1% of your paycheck and then change it whenever you want. But like the example they show here is, let's say 60% of it's going into your invest account, 6% is going into later, a little bit into the kids' early account, and then the rest into checking. I don't really know how that math works out because those numbers are way over 100%. But in theory, you get the concept, right? You can allocate different amounts of your paycheck into these different accounts and just set it and forget it, which is totally an awesome way to do this, because if you're having to manually choose to deposit something every month into your invest account and manually choose to deposit something into your later account, you're probably going to get tired of it. You're probably going to forget about it. It's going to be harder to do because you've got to have that discipline every single month to do it. And so if you're already using some of the Acorns banking features anyway, because you've got your paycheck coming into it, then I think this smart deposit tool would be clutch. And then just one last clarification, because I feel like somebody's going to ask a question about it anyway. Yes, you can use Acorns Later if you're already using something like a 401k. These are not mutually exclusive. It's not like you can only have one retirement account plan thing in general. And if you have the one, you can't use the other. You can have a 401k at work and have a traditional IRA. You could even have both kinds of IRAs if you really wanted to, because as long as you're not meeting that contribution limit and exceeding it, by all means, invest in both if you really want to. I'm pretty sure you can only have one at a time with Acorns, but if you wanted to get really crazy, you could open another one somewhere else too. So it's another level of complication. It's kind of like splitting hairs in terms of the tax thing, but it's cool to know that you can take advantage of both your 401k and something like the Acorns Later IRA, because a lot of the wisdom out there is to say, look, at least get your 401k match at work. If they're offering you a match, let's say on the first 5% of whatever you contribute, at least get the free money. And then after that, if you don't want to use the 401k, that's fine. Use something like an IRA if you've still got more money to invest. And so just so you know that you can do both of those at the same time, it's a really cool option. What I did initially for a time there was get the match for my 401k at work. And then I did a Roth IRA just personally on my own. And so because a 401k is before tax money and a Roth IRA is after tax money, I was like, I don't know what the right decision is for me with this whole tax discussion. Like, how am I going to predict the future 30 or 40 years from now and know, oh yeah, I need to have this exact tax planning strategy? Like, I had no idea. And so I just literally did like 50-50. I went, some money goes to the 401k with tax option number 1, some money goes to the Roth IRA with tax option 2, and then whenever the time comes that I'm retiring, I've got both options. And so I can draw from whichever one I want, and like I'll figure it out at the time, but I didn't want to commit to one and miss out on the other if it ended up being the right thing. So I was on the fence. Like, I had kind of one foot in each camp, if you will. So you've got to do you and figure out kind of your strategy there. But I think in general, Acorns Later is a good product. I think it's easy to use. I think they simplify things just like they always do with investing. And so if you haven't gotten started with an IRA because it feels too complicated or whatever, I don't think there's any reason not to if you want to do it, because it's not going to get easier than this. Like, I don't know of any investing service that makes it easier than that. This is truly hands off, invest the money for me. Don't make me do the work of thinking about it and adjusting it over time. Like, it's on autopilot. So that feature of this, if that's what you're looking for, is really, really cool, and it makes it super easy. If you missed it, here's my Acorns 4-year review, where I go into tons of detail and depth on how I feel about Acorns, what I think is great about the service, what I think could be improved, and it's very, very nerdy, but you can skip around to the parts that you want to see. You can click on here to watch that next. Otherwise, click on my little face in the circle right here to subscribe so you don't miss any videos, and to do me a favor, because it helps me out a lot. I'm doing this for you full time now. Please help me by subscribing and watching this video next. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys later. Bye.